So here we are looking at the trunk of an Ailanthus altissima, which is also known as Tree of Heaven, because it's supposedly one of the fastest growing trees in the world, or in the northern hemisphere with temperate climate. And the trunk looks really funny, right? It it has many shoots branching out, and as it goes up, it finally comes to the growing point above. So, what I've noticed with the Ailanthus altissima and for the Empress tree or Paulownia tomentosa, which are supposedly two of the fastest growing trees in the world, is that the way they grow is unlike other trees. So if we go down here, let's just start here. So as you can see, this trunk here started to grow straight up, but then that was one growing season. Then the next growing season it split off, so a new leader was formed, and that new leader was this one. So that's the second growing year, and then it grew straight up, and then in the second growing year that stopped, and the branch here, which is a little lower, but in the third growing year this one became the leader, and then it grew up. And then, the third year grew from here all the way up to here. And then in the fourth year, a side branch again became the new leader. And here we are in the fourth year of growth. And so that branch is the one that is now the tallest and the leader. So you can see the weird pattern of this tree after 4 years of growing. Now this tree is actually, I believe it's 5 years old, because if we go down here at the very bottom, so we did count 4 years of growth on the Tree of Heaven, but which is an interesting way to count the years of growth actually, but I do believe it's the 5th year of growth, because if we look at the trunk down here, you can see that it just makes a almost an 80-degree angle there. So that's definitely due to the fact that this is the first year of growth, and then a side branch became the new leader. And then down there the trunk is curvy, perhaps because it grew out from under some stones or something. If we look at this other Tree of Heaven, a smaller one, we'll see that the growth pattern of the trunk is pretty much the same thing. And in this case, the leader is not at the top here, but it is this one closer to the bottom. Now this is the empress tree, the Paulownia tomentosa, and as mentioned, you can see how the main trunk here grew straight up, and then this was the main trunk, the tip of the main trunk, and it basically stopped growing, and then some of the side branches became new leaders based on their thickness and woodiness, and the tip of the previous trunk just remains small while the growing area gets thicker and thicker. So that is a growth pattern I've noticed in these fast growing trees. I just noticed that this tree, the Catalpa, kind of exhibits the same growth pattern as the tree of heaven. So if we take a look here, the main trunk goes up and then it reaches a point here where the leader goes up, some branches come off, but there's a little nub here from previous growth. So I guess the Catalpa also kind of exhibits the same growth patterns, and I wouldn't say it's a really fast growing tree. It's just typical for a tree in the Carolinian zone of extreme southern Ontario. If we look at a tree which is not as fast growing as the tree of heaven, we'll see, like this ash for example, we'll see that the trunk just goes straight up, and it just keeps going straight up. And this ash tree is at least the same age as the tree of heaven we just saw, but it goes straight up and it grows from the very tip unless it's damaged. So as you can see, this bud next year will be where the tree grows from. This, on the other hand, is an ash tree where the tip or the growing bud was damaged, so it sent out two new leaders and then one of them became dominant. But as you can see, it's still fairly straight, and both of these leaders, not leaders, but both of the branches are still growing. One of them has become a leader, and then you'll see here again that there was more damage to the growing tip, so it has formed several branches, and in this case there are now two leaders. Both of these are the same thickness. But again, next growing season, these tips will be where this ash tree grows from. Like for example, this mulberry tree, which are in fact voracious growers, and you'll see how thick the trunk of this mulberry, which is only perhaps 3 or 4 years old, is. They if you cut the whole tree down to the stump, it'll still grow, and but it won't grow pups from just the roots. But you can trim these trees, these mulberries, a lot, and then they'll just keep growing and growing and sending out tons and tons of branches. The mulberry is a quick grower as well, actually. It's 3 years old or 4 years old, but just this summer it doubled in height. The last observation I have about these fast growing trees is that sometimes the main trunk actually dies, and then it'll send up suckers or pups from the roots. If it's a normal, not a normal, but a different kind of temperate tree, if the main trunk dies, the whole tree dies. Though you could actually cut the trunk back on a temperate tree, and then it'll send up new shoots, but you still need some of that trunk to be intact in order for that to happen.